Good morning. It's Tuesday, November 2nd, and this is World Watch. American Airlines is the latest airline to run into major disruptions, canceling more than 2,000 flights over the past 4 days. The trouble started with strong winds and severe weather at the airport in Dallas-Fort Worth. This, according to the airline, it delayed flights and kept crew from getting to their next planes. Adding to the problem, American is also facing a shortage of pilots and flight attendants. Travelers were left stranded and frustrated.
It's annoying because it wasn't just American, it was Southwest a couple weeks ago.
Can't control it, so it's out of my control. I'm sure it's terrible for a lot of people. They have places to be and family to be with.
In early October, Southwest Airlines also canceled flights, more than 2,000 in a 4-day period. It ended up costing the airline $75 million. Now, the big question is whether or not airlines can handle the busy holiday season. American says it will be better prepared this week as nearly 1,800 flight attendants begin returning to work after taking voluntary leave during the pandemic. Several Republicans in Congress are upset following a report last week from the Wall Street Journal that said the Biden administration is looking at paying illegal immigrants. They want to give them up to $450,000 apiece to settle suits filed against the government for separating minor children from their parents at the border. In 2018, the Trump administration initiated a zero-tolerance enforcement policy and arrested anyone who crossed the border illegally. Federal law states that children cannot be held in the same facilities as adults. The suits allege that many of the children suffered from ailments like heat exhaustion, as well as emotional trauma from the months of separation and conditions within the facilities. Critics don't like the payment plan because the immigrants crossed the border illegally, and they say those families place their own children at risk in coming here. The path across deserts to reach the United States is dangerous. The immigrants face physical abuse from human smugglers and harsh conditions like treacherous heat and swollen rivers. So far this year, 557 people died along the southern border of the United States. That's more than double the deaths from 2020. Biden and other world leaders arrived in Glasgow, Scotland over the weekend with elbow bumps and smiles for the cameras. Representing more than 120 countries, they've gathered for a UN climate summit called COP26. The 12-day conference looks to find ways to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions and limit the rise in global temperatures. Speeches kicked off on Monday.
Humanity has long since run down the clock on climate change. It's 1 minute to midnight on that doomsday clock, and we need to act now.
And along with these words come many promises and demands, but also protests like these kilt-wearing bobbleheads. The bagpiping protesters are calling on world leaders to come up with an action plan and not just hot air. I wouldn't call this guy an itsy-bitsy spider. The 3-inch Joro Spider is an invasive species that's been weaving its web on power lines, porches, and vegetable patches throughout Georgia. And they've been a nuisance. Their webs, sometimes spanning 10 feet, have been creating a big mess. The critter is native to East Asia, but no one is sure how and when it made its way over to the States or why they're so abundant this year. One homeowner says he killed more than 300 on his property. Yeah, no thanks. But have no fear, experts say the spider is harmless, but they have yet to conclude the impact they could have on the environment or other species.
I love BJU because of the emphasis on hands-on learning. Doing what I'll be doing in my future career has given me the confidence to know I can succeed as a nurse.
Equity and equality, two of the most often used and confused words in our culture today. Well, World Watch reporter Myrna Brown has spent the last few months studying the two concepts and has put together a 3-part series for us.
Our story begins in 1984. Do you remember these, Brian? Big fashion statements from the 80s, and very likely the kind of outfit your parents wore to the ever-popular shopping mall. Climate-controlled, spacious, and all of your favorite places to shop under one roof. This was the place to see and to be seen.
I remember Gwinnett Place Mall when it was a booming shopping center.
First kiss, first date. You know, that again was the center of a teenager's universe back in the 1980s.
It was the hot place, you know, for shopping, meeting friends, and there's a very fabulous food court there.
But Michelle Kang, a first-generation immigrant from Korea, says what Gwinnett Place Mall didn't have in those days were businesses owned and operated by people who look like her.
We are like an immigrant community, and we're not familiar with the contracts, had no connection to even apply for the tenantship.
So there really wasn't an opportunity available?
Not really, yeah.
Joe Allen grew up just 5 miles north of the mall.
I remember most of the businesses being more of the, like the Gap, the McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, things like that. And again, Gwinnett was 90%, Caucasian.
That's an important distinction in this story. Today, 40 years later, Gwinnett has become the most diverse county in the Southeast. But the ethnic makeup isn't the only big change in Gwinnett County. Remember the bustling halls and wall-to-wall mall shopping? Well, this is what Gwinnett Place Mall looks like today. Like many shopping malls across the country, Gwinnett Place lost its footfall in the mid-90s. That's when consumers began jumping onto the e-commerce bandwagon. As online shopping grew, malls struggled to fill floor space. Today, Gwinnett Place Mall stands in disrepair and has become an odd landmark of sorts to those curious but too young to remember its heyday. But this massive 90-acre structure has not completely been abandoned. Earlier this year, Gwinnett County purchased the mall under the leadership of Chairwoman Nicole Hendrickson. She says Gwinnett Place Mall will be redeveloped under what is called an equity action plan.
So why equity? Well, unlike equality, which treats everyone the same regardless of need, equity achieves fairness by treating people differently dependent on need.
So if I'm playing a game of basketball, equity says the referee needs to treat me differently because I have a greater need than the guy on the other team who's 6 inches taller than me. Is that what you mean?
In a way.
In our next installment, what the chairwoman and others mean when they use the word equity. Who let the dogs out? Michelle Slavin reports that a German rail company is putting canines to work, letting them loose on construction sites.
They are, but the dogs don't have free rein. They're still on a leash, using their noses to speed up construction timelines. This cute Cocker Spaniel is Monty, and he works for a rail company. This pup enthusiastically sniffs out railway construction sites. Monty is one of 6 dogs being trained by German rail company Deutsche Bahn to identify the presence of endangered species at construction sites.
The laws require us, before we carry out construction measures, before we impact nature and the environment, to determine whether species worthy of protection live there.
Any creatures found must either be protected on the site or the rail company has to find them new habitats. This process can take human specialists up to a year, but it takes a canine crew less than 2 months, not to mention it's less invasive. Using their keen sense of smell, dogs sniff out creatures like snakes, toads, bats, among others, whose presence could hinder the construction progress.
The point is that there will be delays in construction, or in the worst case, construction will be stopped. If the animals are found in advance, unnecessary costs can be saved.
As part of their training, dogs are put in front of a large metal container with holes in it. Behind one is the scent of an endangered species. And when dogs do find a protected species, they are trained to stay calm. As Monty demonstrates, they don't paw or muzzle the creatures. The dogs just sit and wait for a treat. And if they're lucky, maybe even a belly rub.
As winter approaches, you may be thinking about making a snowman. And apparently, so is the Cumbre Vieja volcano on the Spanish island of La Palma. Well, not exactly a snowman, more like a lava man. Last week, it hurled out a lava bomb which rolled down the side of the volcano, gathering speed and size, kind of like those pieces of a snowman that you roll to gather snow. Except this is lava, hot lava. Active volcanoes like Cumbre Vieja often shoot out large fragments, which cool into solid pieces before they reach the ground. But the volcanic eruption isn't all fun and games. Lava from the volcano has covered over 2,000 acres and forced thousands of families to leave their homes on the island. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'm the Big Bash. Remember, whatever the news, the purpose of the Lord will stand. We'll see you tomorrow.